While the world celebrates the so-called new normal of online education, fast-tracked by the adoption of remote emergency teaching due to the COVID-19 pandemic, some scientists are warning that as many as 95% of the world's languages are likely to die off online if concerted and coordinated efforts are not made to ensure their presence in digital spaces. According to Andras Kornai, only around 5% of the world's languages are likely to survive online, while for the rest, the depressing prognosis is that there is very little hope of them crossing the digital divide. In this report, I spoke to several South African university teachers to hear their reflections on what they have experienced while teaching multilingually online. The lecturers I spoke to are well-known multilingual champions in their institutions and around the country. They come from fields such as education, history, and politics, and have used a range of multilingual approaches, including translanguaging and code switching. Because they recognize that the use of diverse languages in education not only enhances learning capacity, but also affords educators and students the means to draw on the different worldviews expressed in these languages as they deliberate on discipline-specific concepts. They say they did all they could to try and bring in multilingual pedagogies in the online teaching and learning space.
Multilingual pedagogy, which I did at a really low level, it died. It died totally. So no, there was absolutely no focus on language, not that I'm aware of, and I was also watching webinars and doing far more than the varsity offered me because I was so nervous about the technology. I don't, just looking at your questions, no, I was going to say negative to all these things that you are asking.
One of the consequences of online teaching conducted almost exclusively in English is that if this continues, it can derail the work that has been done to date in intellectualizing the indigenous languages and may play a role in accelerating linguicide where these languages die off in online education spaces.
The other thing that multilingualism does is it creates an intellectual relationship between you as students that are interested in the topic, and therefore in creating an intellectual relationship, it's helping to socialize students into the university. You don't have a university without socializing students into the culture of the university. And multilingualism, you can switch, code switch, don't. No room for that. Which means we're not socializing university students into the university. Because remember, the ability to switch between the languages helps students to gain access to this world that is quite difficult, especially coming from high school or just in undergrad. It's not a difficult world. Heavy text, heavy theory, heavy this, heavy that. Now, multilingualism is helpful when it's about talking through the problems that you've confronted in the classroom and the questions, and then breaking them down through conversing and having ongoing. You're turning that student into a citizen of the university, right? Mm-hmm. Through code switching, and also, it's not just code switching, it's like showing the student that na Karl Marx man, ilula lando jonga iso sawuthatha yabo ngoku uyabona la mntu bawuphe local marks and I don't teach how much to saying like le theory le yasinto enzima okanye le nto okay ndiyayiva mislento. You giving the students sense of belonging, sense of ownership, of intellectual engagement, so they see themselves as muslo prof uyathetha nam ndiyakwazi uthetha naye simanje. It's not so difficult, right? Not there in the virtual space.
One of the biggest challenges some lecturers say they faced was how to conduct multilingual assessments online. One lecturer lamented the fact that learner management systems lack the capabilities to recognize spelling and grammar in some indigenous languages.
People generally complain that it's very difficult to write online exams in an African language because you need special characters that are not
that are not you can only find them on a word, you have to go insert. But when you write, say, for instance, on Blackboard, those special characters are not there, which makes it very difficult now on the aspect of assessment, because those special characters are very much part of the language itself. For instance, there's sound sh, which is like an S with a cap on top. If students can't find it on Blackboard, what do? Can they just put X, which is not an approved orthography of Spedi? Can they put S and H, which is not an approved orthography of Spedi? And it sort of raises fundamental questions about assessment and quality assurance, because one of the things that we're trying to do is to train them to write, in an African language, to produce academic texts in African languages, and if we can't do that, those are problematic things.
As far back as 2014, scholars have called for the localization of the learner management system interfaces to promote instruction in indigenous African languages and further promote the functions and status of these languages in the ICT domain. Another challenge is the limited features that allow for teaching using multiliteracies.
It's been hard to demonstrate to students using a newsprint, for example, because newsprint is one way of teaching, like when you do using your newsprint, but also doing shared writing. So you're combining multilingualism and literacy, because you are writing down what people say, and you are doing that simultaneously. And it's difficult to do those online unless you are very much well-versed, because remember, we're all trying things out and we can't say we are perfect with online. And so you're facing the students, but you are not demonstrating in writing because you don't have the tools with you. So one of the things that then lecturers do is to record themselves. So you find somebody in your own home who will make a video of you doing this demonstration. But it's unnatural because you are talking to yourself, you are not talking to students, and with the natural responses that you would get if you were in the classroom doing this. So it's been hard in that regard.
As a language teacher, you are bound to write, because when students don't understand what you are trying to teach, you have to put what you are uttering orally into writing for their full grasp. So with Blackboard, because the Blackboard teaching was new to most of us, even that option of writing using Blackboard, it is not fast as it is when you are writing on the chalkboard. So it's still a challenge for me, because I cannot write whatever that I need to write when I'm explaining to students. So I rely mostly on my prepared slides and notes. So if there's something that I need, or maybe there's a word that has many meanings and I need to add those meanings, for me it's impossible, because I cannot write on the notes that I have already prepared or on the slides that I have already prepared.
The emergency remote approach that was adopted led to the rapid and widespread adoption of online approaches that inclined academics to focus on the delivery of content at the expense of other aspects of education, such as meaningful engagement that leads to the democratization of learning in these spaces.
It's very challenging for me in that kind of university that I'm in to simply turn learning into a screen. The socialization process through multilingual engagement is no longer available as an option for me. And it's devastating in the sense that it means I'm a less competent teacher, because so much of my training as a university lecturer is about how to socialize students through engaging them through provocations and questions and using different languages, right? To show them that, either I don't know enough or I could be comfortable with this topic. I don't have that option anymore, and I feel a bit lost without it.
At the Heltasa 2021 Unconference, I'm Sisanda Ngwala.